We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Friday, August 29th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Lee Won-bin.
Good morning.
Good morning. Also, Grace is with us today.
Happy Friday.
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. It's finally Friday, and to close out the work week, we're going to take a closer look at a trend that has been quietly growing but could have big implications for society and the economy. So recent data shows that the number of young people taking extended breaks from work or education, sometimes called the resting youth, has reached an all-time high. So these are young adults who are not in school, not in full-time work, and not actively training, choosing instead to step back from the pressures of the job market. So while this decision is voluntary, it is often influenced by broader contextual pressures such as intense competition for jobs, economic uncertainty, and societal expectations, making more than just a personal choice. So to start us off, Won-bin, can you explain a bit more about what it means to be part of this population, how big this group of people who are essentially taking a pause from traditional work and education is?
Of course. So as you just explained, the term resting youth means young people who are voluntarily economically inactive. The number of resting youth is increasing year over year, and in 2025, it exceeded 500,000 people. Now, to get a better understanding, let's take a look at the stats. So, we have the stats from Statistics Korea about the number of youth who are economically inactive, aka resting youth, and the unit is 10,000 people. So, in 2015, the number of resting youth was 300,000 people, and that went up to 440,000 people in 2020 and 500,000 people in 2025. And please keep in mind that this category is different from the unemployed people, because in order to be considered as an unemployed individual, technically you must be seeking for a job or doing job searching. However, the resting youth includes people who are not working because they choose to not work. In other words, it's a number that gives a better representation of how many youths are not working here in Korea. And I think it's very important for us to differentiate these two categories because the numbers are dramatically different. Unemployed people was at 7% with 269,000 people, which is only about half of the resting youth, which was again roughly 500,000.
So 500,000 is a huge number. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around it. Grace, with more and more people, young people, stepping away from work or school for extended periods, what does this mean for the overall economy?
Yeah, according to a new study by Changwon National University commissioned by the Korea Economic Association, this growing trend is estimated to have cost our economy 44.5 trillion Korean won over a 5-year period from 2019 to 2023. And this shows us that when these resting youth, who should generally be part of the economically active population, are not working, it's detrimental to our economy and society as a whole.
And it's detrimental because for our country, they're using valuable workforce, basically.
Exactly.
So it's clear that a significant number of young people have become part of what's being called the resting youth. Those who are not in school, not in full-time work, and not actively training. And this number has been steadily growing in recent years. But what's behind this trend, Won-bin?
There are some reasons for this. Although technically the resting youth are voluntarily not working, there are still some external causes that affect their decision and discourage them from working. The first big reason is it's tough to get a job nowadays due to the high standards and requirements. A short example would be many companies looking for experienced individuals for an entry-level position, which is kind of ironic. Just to add on, I saw a satire content on social media where a company is looking for someone for an entry-level position, and the requirement was someone to be under 25. With over 35 years of job experience. So obviously it's satire, but it's a good example, a good representation of the current job market. And to see some more reasons, let's take a look again at the stats. Now, we have another one from Statistics Korea asking the reason for economic inactivity. And keep in mind that multiple answers were allowed, so the numbers exceed 100%. The first reason is no appropriate job opportunity at 38%, Following reasons are education and self-improvement at 35%, burnout at 28%, and last but not least, emotional and psychological reasons at 25%. Now, 53% of youths answer that they did not do any job searching for the past year, which is more than half. And I think the reasons on the stats explain this actually very, very well, because let's try picturing it, okay? So it's difficult to find a job that you can apply for due to the high standards, no job opportunity. So you invest more time to develop your portfolio, which is self-improvement. And despite having a better resume, you continuously fail to get a job, which gives you stress, the emotional reason. And at the end, you give up, which is the burnout.
Do you know a lot of people around? Have you noticed any job seeking trends around people around you?
Yeah, so a lot of my students are doing job seeking, but they always continuously practice for interviews or they practice their English skills as well. So I can definitely feel that the standard for getting a job or entering a company has risen a lot, because a lot of people have been focusing on improving their English on top of their careers and experiences that they have. Yeah, so you really have to be extracurricular in these days.
So since you meet a lot of students or people who are learning English, what's the age group between people who are actively, you would say, what's the age group where they're actively seeking jobs?
Yeah, so surprisingly, unlike what most people would think, the majority of the people who are actively looking for a job would be anywhere from the late 20s to the early 30s. Anywhere in their mid 20s, for example, 25, 26, compared to the past, I feel like they're still doing some academics or they're still in school. And by the time you're in your late 20s, 28, 29, is when you start to work. And I see a lot of students who are in their early 30s, and most of them, they're in their first or second year in their job. So it has been pushed back a little bit more.
I'm sure there are a lot of reasons behind that, but it kind of shows that the labor market isn't the easiest, clearly.
Right.
So one reason this rise in resting youth has sparked concern in society is the psychological toll it can take on young people. Grace, can you explain what kinds of mental health challenges this trend is causing? Are we seeing higher levels of anxiety among these people, and how are these struggles affecting their own confidence and motivation?
Yes, so actually young people who are taking long breaks from working are said to experience more emotions like anxiety and frustration, reaching a point where they want to give up looking for a job altogether. And the longer the break, the more difficult it becomes to find a new job, because naturally, even for companies that are looking to hire, they don't see long breaks as an appealing trait for an employee. And now, as it becomes harder for these resting youth to get jobs, one failure after another, it turns into a vicious cycle where their confidence is weakened further and they lose the will to even try. And adding to that, lacking the financial resources and a sense of belonging, some even resort to home confinement. In fact, 77% of young people who have taken a break from work report anxiety, leading to many of them to seek psychiatric care or counseling.
So 77% is a huge number. It's quite concerning. So to get a broader perspective on this, we're actually going to speak with a counselor who works directly with these young people experiencing challenges. So that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Christy, a counselor at the Torch Trinity Counseling Center here in Seoul. So hi, Christy. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello.
So what psychological factors drive young people to step away from work or school and join the resting youth?
I think it could be a combination of both psychological and societal factors. How the Korean society and people define success is too high of a standard and even unrealistic for many. If one's perception of success is, for example, getting into large corporations, having high income, being successful in their investments, young adults will feel that success is not attainable for them. Then this will hinder them from even attempting to try anything, even if they could learn, develop their skills, and gain even more experience. So this thought of, I won't be successful anyways, why even try, may lead more people to be resting youth. And some might be fearful of getting rejected from companies. They feel that they are already behind in terms of their spec, and they might subjectively perceive their background and qualifications to be not good enough. And this will especially occur to those who compare with their peers who are seemingly successful or more well off than them. So this sense of falling behind and also comparing with others will drive young people to step away from work and join the resting youth.
I see. Thank you so much for giving us a thorough overview of the situation. Now, many young people report feeling anxious even while taking a break from work or school. Now, why do you think that is, and what does it reveal about the emotional experiences that these resting youth are going through?
Yes, it's very understandable that young people would report feeling anxious. Young adults who are resting are probably facing a life crisis. They're faced with uncertainty, especially about themselves and about the future. And if this period of uncertainty gets prolonged, they are prone to losing motivation, being burnt out, as you mentioned, feeling helpless and hopeless, which will lead to even more anxiety and even depression. I would characterize this resting youth as those who might be going through an identity crisis, a state of confusion and questioning who they are and feeling lost about where they might be heading for in the future. So experiencing this identity crisis causes emotional distress, confusion, loss of self-esteem, which can then lead to anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of purpose. So the resting youth could experience all of the above, and even with just this explanation, doesn't it sound pretty overwhelming? So I think this is what the resting youth could be experiencing emotionally.
So, Christy, during these long or difficult job searches, how can young people maintain their mental health and well-being?
Well, one way to maintain your mental health and well-being would be solidifying your own identity. As the developmental psychologist Eric Erickson mentioned, young adulthood is a period for identity exploration. If you are still in the stage of preparing to get a job, please use this time to navigate who you are, your values and interests and goals in life, and not just your career goals. And of course, the type of job and work you do has a huge impact on your identity, but be careful not to tie your identity with your career and future ambition. To explore your identity, it is important to cultivate diverse interests and relationships outside of work or career development. So whatever you do, I hope it will be in the direction of getting to know yourself better. And lastly, questions about yourself. Are they helping you to attempt to do something or hinder you from doing anything? If you are thinking too much or ruminating, be aware of them and stop those thoughts. Find something that you can put into action. Don't give up on eating, sleeping, spending time with your family and friends, or even going out for a walk. So keep up with the things you need to carry on in your daily life and start with something small.
I think what you said is actually quite inspirational, not just for job seekers, but just for me, myself. Like, the importance of finding yourself, I think, is really important. So thank you for highlighting that. And thank you for joining us today as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we just spoke with a counselor about the mental health challenges and psychological factors behind the resting youth trend and gained valuable insight into how young people can cope with stress, anxiety, and the pressures of stepping away from work or school. And looking ahead, with ongoing unemployment, intense competition for jobs, and structural obstacles in the labor market, what strategies or steps can young people take to navigate these obstacles and improve their chances of finding meaningful work? And this is important because in many cases, as we've mentioned before, the decision to become part of the resting youth trend actually began because young people feel overwhelmed by the difficulty in finding a job. So what do you have to say about this, Grace?
Yeah, these days, like you mentioned, since it is such a tough labor market, companies joke about how they want people with experience even when they're looking to hire interns.
Right.
So, I think it's important to build any kind of experience, no matter how small or minuscule it may seem at the moment. And I am truly an advocate for doing what you love, usually, most of the time. But I do want to be a little bit more realistic right now in this situation, and say that even if you do hate your job that you're in right now, I say just keep working while you look for new jobs, and then leave when you actually have an alternative.
And I think Christy made a good point about it's important to not have too much of high expectations.
Exactly.
So which is why
Job is a job.
A job is a job.
Yeah.
So is there a job that you've taken that wasn't exactly like your dream job, but that ultimately helped you?
Yeah, so when I first came to Korea, I took a job teaching English, and I'm not a natural born teacher in any
not easy.
aspect. It's not easy.
As
It's
one thing, well, you know.
I wish I was more like Wonbin and I was a good teacher, but I'm not. And so it was actually really challenging for me to understand how to understand the student's perspective when they're trying to learn something. And so not only did it let me build my technical skills, like becoming a better communicator, being more articulate with my words, but also it built my character. So it built my patience. It helped me understand and build empathy for others. And so I think building character is also a really big thing that we need to consider when we're taking these jobs that we don't want.
So there's clearly a lot to gain from these even small experiences as well. So do you have any advice, Wonbin, for young people who are taking a break from work or school due to stress, burnout, or the pressures of this competitive job market? And what practical steps can they take to maintain their mental health and stay motivated and prepare for re-entering the work or education when they're finally ready?
You know, when you have to rest, everyone needs some time to recharge their battery. And when you do rest, I think it's you have to do it right. You can't be stressed from taking a break, right? It kind of contradicts the entire purpose of taking a break. And I think it's good if you kind of think of it as charging your phone. Plugging the charger in and out of your phone because you feel anxious will not help charge your phone faster. So go on a long vacation, go try something completely new outside of your comfort zone. Like Christy explained, doing something outside of your work, it personally helps me to feel alive and stay motivated again. And just to add on, there are a lot of voices hating on taking a break or having a burnout. And I do partially understand the logic, but I think we have to understand that it really depends on the individual. You know, some people have a high pain stress tolerance while others are a little bit more sensitive. So don't try to measure yourself by comparing yourself with others. You know yourself the best, so follow and do what you feel is right when it comes to taking a break.
So have you personally felt burnt out recently?
Oh yeah, I have. When I had basically less working time because of my voice and my back pain, my health issues, I really did have more spare time compared to the past. And that actually spare time it made me to have a burnout or feel a little bit more anxious about my career, my job security. So what I just explained to the audience is what I went through, and it's my personal advice. So yeah, it's certified by Michael. Going on a trip, yeah.
So there's also growing concern about how society perceives resting youth. So to close off our discussion today, how might these societal attitudes affect the young people themselves? And more importantly, how can parents, educators, and society at large better understand, support, and guide them without adding extra pressure so that they can maintain their well-being while preparing to re-engage with work when they finally feel ready, Grace?
Yes, some say that society perceives resting youth as irresponsible or unmotivated, which are pretty negative perceptions. Now, if the number of resting youth continues to rise, this may grow into a bigger issue for the economy. So, I hope there are efforts being made on the individual level, societal level, and hopefully at the policy level. I know that that's hard. We can stop it from becoming a national problem.
I agree. Wonbin, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so I have a quick message for the youths, the fellow 20s, just like me, especially who just got out of school or who doesn't have a dedicated career yet. So at this point of life, it's very important to try many different experiences. And I know that everyone says this, like you have to do many experiences. So let me be a little bit more specific. So experience is, so it's about trying things that will help you to decide what fits you the best. So for example, if you don't know what you want to do for a living, you have to try many different jobs. And there are a lot of part-time job opportunities with low entrance barriers that allows you to experience that field. So in your 20s, rather than trying to find the job of your life, that big, stable corporate life that you'll have for a lifetime, I think it's better to try different fields here and there that doesn't necessarily have to be a very big, presentable job, and gain more experience that will help you to guide through life.
So Grace says she taught English before.
Yes.
Have you done any part-time jobs yourself that's helped you get to where you are today?
Oh yeah, one very quick example. It's regardless of my English teaching job. However, before I went to the Army when I was 20, I used to work as a lifeguard. I did morning
that's really
shift.
cool.
Yeah, so that shift started at 5 a.m. I didn't have to wake up at 5 a.m. I had to start working at 5 a.m. And what that taught me is I was used to waking up and start working at 5 a.m. And that taught me that because I worked at 5 a.m., working at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., which is a little bit more early than the regular hours, that it taught me that I can do anything. It gave me more confidence in life, in working. So that was one example that affected me in a good way.
So that's really cool. So even if it's not like directly related, it's still like for Grace, you were able to build character. For you were able to kind of get used to, working hard, getting into that morning shift kind of morning hour routine as well.
Yeah, focusing on the experience a little bit more than money in your youth, in your 20s, is the key for success in my opinion.
So at the end of the day, the story of Resting Youth is not just about stats, but about real young people navigating immense pressures. And with the right understanding and support, these pauses don't have to be setbacks. They can be opportunities for growth and a stronger re-entry into work or education. So to all the young people taking a step back right now, you're not alone and your future is not defined by this moment. And with patience and support, there is a path forward waiting for you. And this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back Monday at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. A big thanks to Wonbin.
Always a pleasure.
And Grace.
Thanks for having me.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And we hope you have the best weekend. We are
News Generation.